You have a team that you should beat. No excuses if you don't. Absolutely no excuses if you don't, because even the guys that didn't play should beat that team. That roster is 100 times better than the Guatemalan roster. Let's be honest. So they should beat that team, and yeah, go to a final. Then you're 90 minutes away from a trophy, and then in the last tournament before the home World Cup, you did the job. It might have not been the prettiest. There might have been some speed bumps, but you got it done.
Big things are happening in the player manager universe, because not only did Julian actually go to a game that he didn't play in, which means he's going to be able to talk about things from my perspective, I also went to a game and watched Julian. Now, how creepy would it be if I went to the game and watched you and just didn't say anything? Like I should have done that. That would have been better.
That would have been creepy, but I like the little Julian, you screaming me down there.
Julian! Julian! I got him.
On the sideline during warm up, that was a nice little one. Way to finally meet you in person. We finally did it, Z. We finally met.
Yes, it worked. What's up, dude? What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Good to see you too.
And now we're back virtual again. This is our comfort zone. But it was funny. You were so locked in. I don't know if anybody watching this podcast has ever watched Julian play. Don't worry. We're going to get to Gold Cup, U.S. men's national team drama, and of course, plenty of Club World Cup stuff and whatever else we happen to wander into over the course of this podcast. But Julian's really locked in. If you've never watched him play, like especially in the warm up before the game, you are, like couple of sprints back and forth, and you get the cross and hit a wind sprint. Like you're the human embodiment of like activation would be the word. If you had like a physical trainer being like, activate the muscles, you're like cross. Okay. I yelled Julian because I have a good relationship with the Red Bulls media team. They were very nice. They gave me a media pass basically. So I'm down on the field and I yelled your name enough that the cameramen near me were like, dude, what the he's not going to turn around. Like, what are you doing? And then finally I got your attention. You were very nice to come over, obviously, because I think you're supposed to be jogging off the field. But that was really funny because I only had about one or two more yells left until I got thrown out by stadium security on that one.
No, I heard you a couple before, and I was like, let him yell a couple more, because I actually didn't see you before, so it was good that you yelled. I was kind of looking a little bit because you texted me that you were going to be there, and I was looking, I couldn't see you, and then I just heard the Julian, and that sound, that sound sounded familiar. So yeah, I turned around and finally, came over. What you say, I'm locked in. That's actually very interesting to me because I feel like I'm quite loose in warm-ups. Like there's guys that are like tunnel vision that you can't talk to, that are like so locked in. I'm more of like casual, like me coming over like wasn't a problem for me to like joking a little or whatever. Like that's usually like no problem.
I think it was maybe it's just this physically locked in. It just feels like your movements are very precise. It's very coordinated. When you leave a team huddle, you aren't kind of just shaking it out and walking over. It's like, this is an opportunity for a quick wind sprint, change direction. I'm going to go here. Is there a thought process behind that? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I was just gonna say I've done it. I mean, over 300 times now. So these things are like they're just the things that I've gotten. They're like routines, like you're saying. I hit like in warm ups to finish the warm up when you kind of yelled at me. We were doing crosses, right? Crossing and finishing, and I'm a wing back, so I'm only always on the outside. To do the crossing there, and then usually after the crosses I do like 3 or 4 like longer runs to kind of just get my heart rate up. Like those things I always do, they're not just like in the moment like that. They kind of just, they're always the same. And then we did, what else do we do just before the kickoff after the anthem, that little things, they're all things that are part of the routine. I do them every time. So if you watch me in the stadium, watch me, I don't know, on away games, whatever, like I usually do the same stuff. It's very rarely that it deviates, but it's also never like, if I don't do it, I'm going to be terrible today. Like it's not down to that level,
So there isn't a superstition behind, I only did 2 sprints instead of 3. Now I'm screwed.
No, that's right. No, there's not. But there's certainly meaning in just like things I've noticed that I need. For example, I need to get my heart rate up. I need to be in warm-ups I feel like I need to be like winded, like like breathing heavy and stuff, and those sprints after the cross, for example, they help, So I don't know,
I
just
guess
weird.
how does that get built? Right, I'm in a pure curiosity zone right now. But was there just one day that you went, okay, I'm going to do the sprints here, I'm going to do the sprints here, I'm going to do the sprints here, I'm going to jog it out at this point, and then you've just done that every day since?
It's trial and error. um, it's obviously being where I'm at, or a lot of the listeners, and you obviously know this. I've played for a lot of different coaches, a lot of different clubs, and everybody kind of comes with, every coach or every strength coach or physical conditioning coach, they have different warm ups, and so usually I try and take something from everybody with me that I like, that I don't like. So I've just been kind of for example, some teams don't do crossing and finishing, where like I can't hit a cross and then do some sprints. Like there were times, um there was that, like in Miami, for example, we didn't do crossing and finishing, we just do shooting. So I would take a couple shots and then do the sprint after the shot. So it's not like, it's just a cross every time, but it's, yeah, just trial and error, trying to um do different things as I notice myself feeling good in a game. Maybe even things that are like do new, and then in the game it's like I had like a couple of an assist or two assists or something, and it's like, all
Oh
right,
yeah.
yeah, I gotta, that was the reason I gotta do that again.
Yeah.
So if I had a hat trick in that game, you would have had to be at every game, dude.
I do. Hey, look, I think we've got the budget in that in this podcast, right? Be able to. I'm gonna start go on the road with the team or something. But I actually really enjoyed that game. I'm sure we're gonna get back to it, but I want to get to the game that you attended, because we're so often talking about some game that I watched, but now we're able to talk about a game that you watched. I'll fill in the notes here for the people that might not be keeping up with the illustrious Gold Cup, as it is known. The United States taking on Costa Rica. Of course, this is a U.S. team without Weston McKennie, without Christian Pulisic, but still guys like Tyler Adams are there. I think the idea that this team is fully watered down is overblown. Malik Tillman's there, and so on and so forth. And the U.S. goes behind, battles back, score. It kind of dominates the game, but this is how it goes against Costa Rica. They're like a rope-a-dope boxer or something. They're going to make you
Yeah.
tire yourself out. They're going to lean on Keylor Navas, and they're going to take their opportunity. And they did. And it ended up going to penalties. And you had a front row seat to the whole thing in what I believe is the Minnesota Vikings Stadium, which I've actually been to before. I went to watch Virginia's Final Four run, and that was actually played in that stadium. And it is a beautiful but massive stadium. So I'll start with the fact that there's no way they filled that for the Gold Cup, is there?
No, the upper bowl wasn't even open, and the lower and like middle section, they were, I don't know, I think they were just over 30,000,
Well, that's pretty good, honestly.
somewhere around there. So it definitely wouldn't have been enough to fill, like it would definitely would have been enough to fill our stadium, our soccer specific stadium. So that's probably why they put it. And with the double headers, you get obviously four nations, of fans of nations coming in. So that kind of, yeah, filled it up a bit more, but it was a good atmosphere. I think the Guatemala Canada game had a lot of more intense fans. The Guatemala fans, I guess, were really intense. What do you want, Freddie? Come up. You want to say hi? No, sorry, my dog's
Yes,
interrupting me.
dog content. Come
Come
on.
on, Freddie. You want to come in the podcast? No, he's not. He doesn't want to. He just wants to play with his ball.
He's camera shy.
Yes, but where was I? Yeah, so the energy, I want to say, left the building a little bit when the US came out, and they started playing. I thought the Costa Rica fans were going to be a bit more intense, but um, it wasn't the case. And I wasn't there for the Canada Guatemala game, just because I went with my daughter, and she would have not lasted 4 hours in the stadium like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But it was good. It was nice to be a fan. Nice to wear a USA hoodie and go in there chanting USA a little bit with my daughter, trying to get her used to the whole soccer idea without daddy playing. So it's just a cool experience to be a part of, and see some of the guys play in person that I know well. Big shout out to Brian White for getting me the tickets. He got me the tickets, and yeah, it was just a good time.
Is it almost? I'm going to be honest, right? You're a more humble guy than me, right? I know this. Although I don't think I'm overly braggadocious. You can correct me if I'm wrong. If I was a former national team player, right? Like I've got US caps and I go to a
Yeah,
US national team game. I don't know why this is what I just thought of, but you mentioned just sitting in the crowd wearing the US hoodie.
yeah,
I'd be like that meme of the guy standing in the corner, like, they don't know I've played for this team. Look at
yeah.
all these people. Like, is there a little bit of that, or is almost this hunger to try and get back into the team?
Well, to be fair, a lot of people recognized me. Um, so shout out
There
to all
you
the
go.
Minnesota United fans that were there and they recognized me, and a lot of Minnesota United jerseys in general, not just USA. So that was cool to see. But um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's more so the feeling of trying to get back in there and trying to get back into it, trying to be. It's more motivating to try and wear that crest again, to try and be on the field, or you just on the bench or whatever, just be part of the team again. I think that's more so the overall feeling that came up for me. I think it was so different, obviously, because my daughter was there, and it wasn't just me going with some friends or whatever. Like it would have been maybe different in that sense, but it was really, I don't get to watch a lot of soccer games with my daughter in the stands, from the stands. Like usually she goes with my wife watching me, and other than that, we don't have too many opportunities to do that. I want to take her to a women's soccer game so bad, but the times are not great at the moment. Um, but so in that sense, I was really just enjoying the experience with her. Um, and I think you see that on my reel on Instagram as well, how, we talk about the stadium, and, we chant USA, and she was asking me cute questions. It was like soccer 101. Like, it was like, who was the red guy? And that was like the referee in the middle. And then she was like, well, what does the referee do when he shows a yellow card? Why does he give a yellow card? It's like, what if there's another yellow card? And then we like talked about red cards and penalties, and it was cool. It was just being a dad, and that was so much fun. But
Um,
definitely the motivation piece was definitely there to get back to it.
no, I mean that's obviously awesome, and I'm sure she got a little more confused because, of course, it went to a penalty shootout.
Yeah,
So there's some extra explaining that was necessary. But in a kind of pulse pounding penalty shootout, the new guy, FREESE, played spectacularly. I mean, as a former goalkeeper, I don't think he could have done much better than he did. I think he saved half of them. And
yeah,
two of the other three he didn't save, he was on
yeah,
them, like
yeah.
read the hips, had the scouting report. And obviously, if you're the US, you'd prefer not to go to a penalty shootout, but the whole thing survive in advance. I'm going to answer this question after you, but do you think that type of performance? I mean, you got to watch it in person and see how kind of the team went for him. Is Freeze all of a sudden going to be the number one guy for the team going forward?
I mean, it's interesting, right? Like he's certainly proven to be a good penalty stopper, penalty kick specialist in a sense, right? Where he's a good guy. First of all, I know him personally a little bit from playing against him. He plays for New York City. Really, really good guy. And I mean, the game before, he made a little mistake. So it's not like he wasn't.
Not so little. That was
Yeah,
a tough mistake.
yeah, exactly. So it's not like he had a flawless tournament and he's the clear cut guy now, where he stood on his head and he's, the number one. I think going in, I think he's done a good job. Now obviously helping them advance to the next round, big time. You know, you got to come up in big time moments. And I think the buddy that was there with us, he asked me after the game. He was like, "What do you think the mindset is of these players?" And I'm like, you're in a even in the penalties, because you think, or that you should kind of beat this team, like not going to penalties, and do it without that, having, you should beat that team clearly in a sense. And I was like, honestly, like, you're in the penalty shootout and you are in this situation, so you want to make the most of it, you want to advance, you want to get an opportunity to play, and you do it, and that's just a positive and good feeling for the group, and I think you see that in the reaction of everybody. um, but do you think Freeze is gonna be the guy?
I think it's hard for him not to be. I mean, here's the thing. This is really the last go before the World Cup. I mean, there's going to be a couple of windows, but those are friendlies. This is the last time that you're going to be able to at least simulate some type of pressure
Yeah,
situation. And he's the guy that's getting the shout, right? And I'll be perfectly honest, I'd heard his name before, right? Having kept up with MLS from time to time, but he was not somebody that I even had on the radar as
yeah,
being the goalkeeper, right? It had been Matt Turner, it had been Zach Steffen, it had been Gaga Slonina. Like, these are the guys that were talked about around being the goalkeeper of this team. But clearly Pochettino saw something in him. And as far as I'm aware, all the goalkeepers I just named, except for maybe Gaga Slonina, who I think is with Chelsea, but he's never been the number one choice in his young career, albeit.
Yeah.
I think they're all available for this tournament. And so
Zach Steffen is hurt, I think.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
very unfortunate, and the best wishes to Zach Steffen, but that does happen, unfortunately, for him quite a bit, which obviously is going to affect his ability to take the spot anyways. I just don't know what another goal. Here's the thing. It almost complicates it. I don't know if FREESE is the best option, because that mistake against Haiti in the previous round, the group stage, it was bad. I mean, it was the type of mistake that can kill a tournament if it happens at the wrong time. Yeah. It also is the type of mistake that, with the exception of people like Manuel Neuer, it happens to everybody every once in a while, right? You hit the ball and it's exactly the wrong time. It goes exactly to the wrong place and you're screwed and you end up looking like an idiot. But I think Pochettino's it almost simplifies the decision if you have this kid. Well, I say kid. FREESE is not a kid, right? He's well into his career at this point. If you have him pop off, how is somebody else going to be able to do something to take that spot away at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's a lot of games in between now and the World Cup. Not for the national team, but like as a pro player, like I will have a lot of games in between now and then. Matt FREESE will have a lot of games in between now and then. I think Matt Turner is rumored to go to Lyon, right? Like, is he going to be the number one guy there?
But
is he? Well, yeah,
I don't know if you heard this. They just got relegated. I mean, they're doing some last ditch appeal, but that could be the unluckiest thing ever for Matt Turner if he has to spend the last season before the World Cup playing in the French second division.
Hey, but he would get to play, which he hadn't done in a while at a club level. So, like there's, I don't know, like that's why Matt FREESE is in there right now, is because Pochettino had said that because he's doing well for his club. Okay, can you be a guy, especially the goalkeeper position? I feel like there is, if you have a really good start to the season next, or end of the season next, starting in 2026, and kind of have a good year, I think there's certainly, it's not set in stone that he's the guy. He's done a really good job helping the team in crucial moments right now. And I think that will have some sort of impact going forward, I think for sure. But, is there, room for Matt Turner to come back in? I think so. If he does the right things, I know Matt's quality. Matt has quality. We all know this, right? He just hasn't been able to prove it and show it consistently, for whatever reason. And one of the reasons being he's not able to play a ton. So, it's I still think a lot can happen in between now and the World Cup, and but he's done a good job. You're totally spot on that he is helping the team win games and move on in very, like, in a serious tournament, in a serious setting.
No, I think that there are two types of international managers. We're going to find out what type Pochettino is, because some international managers, the club play almost doesn't matter at all for the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Right. They pick a guy and they're like, this is the guy, and he's going to be the goalkeeper for this national team until he starts playing badly for the national team. I mean, Memo Ochoa is probably the best example, because whoever was managing Mexico would just pop him in there. Mexico had 5 goalkeepers better, but he just had this aura.
Yeah.
Right. And he would rise to the occasion just in that shirt. It was like he didn't even play club football anymore at a certain point. And then there's other managers, which Pochettino might be that guy, where he's just playing FREESE because he thinks he's the hottest goalkeeper right now. But if FREESE has a non-spectacular season or rest of the season, and then, like you said, Matt Turner or even a Gaga Slonina or anybody else goes out and, is playing at a really high level, getting really high fought mob ratings, he won't worry about it and just pop him into the national team. Some managers treat goalkeeper really differently, and some managers treat it like every other position. We're just going to find out what Pochettino wants to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think there's any other players that have kind of played themselves onto a radar right now for, future considerations when everybody's available?
I think the one guy in the pool that very often gets overlooked, that is at least the film I was able to watch from the game. I didn't watch the entire game. Malik Tillman is somebody that I think could steal a starting spot at the World Cup next year. I mean, he's very quietly been spectacular at PSV. I mean, and they made the Champions League last 16 this year, and he is an important part of that team. And
He
he
might
is
get
now,
he might be transferred to Leverkusen.
which would obviously, if you get 1 year playing at Leverkusen and you play well,
Yeah.
he's elevated himself into a whole other stratosphere. Because for better or worse, people do overlook contributions in the Dutch league from time to time. I
Yeah.
think Tillman's somebody that could start, but I think Diego Luna's got an opportunity to be a spirit animal of the national team. He is just so feisty, and I realize that if you call up the 26 best Americans, Diego Luna is scrapping to be from 20 to 26. I just think that if you look at the great World Cup teams the United States has put together, there's a Diego Luna type player in there that plays like 100 minutes the whole tournament, but just delivers that, one overly enthusiastic, kind of aggressive, nuts play. I mean, guys like Kyle Beckerman, obviously not the same position, but these people that can become spirit animals. Like for one magical day, Kyle Beckerman was hanging with Cristiano Ronaldo. Who the hell knows how that happened, right? And so I think Diego Luna's shown a lot for me in terms of his just ability to impact the game with things other than his quality. It's not like he doesn't have quality. He can make plays. It's
Yeah.
just he impacts the game with his presence. And I love having a guy like that in a tournament setting.
Yeah.
Did you know? I mean, you were at the game. Did anybody stand out to you while you were watching?
I mean, Malik Tillman I thought was good. I think obviously the player of the match, I think got Max Arston got the play of the match, former teammate of mine. He's come a long way over the last year and a half. Obviously doesn't look great on the penalty that he concedes initially, but then responds really well with a goal and an assist later on. So, is he a true left back in a back four? I don't really think so. Um, has he done something to kind of warrant, keeping tabs on? Probably, right? Like, I mean, there's guys like I think I like Chris Richards at the moment. I think he's finally playing at a level that at a solid level that he's not getting beat, a ton. Where like I feel like okay, that's a center back position is a big question mark for me and a very important one. So seeing him play, I think mature and just solid is good. It's a good thing. And so I think he kind of stands out a little bit to me, even by not making huge plays or scoring goals or whatever, just by being solid, and I think that's a big one. I'm obviously excited that Tyler Adams is getting real minutes again under his belt, obviously having a tough season with injuries. So he's coming back and playing needing those minutes, simple as that. Um, and yeah, and then the other two guys that you mentioned, I still think Patrick Aguiman up top, like I think he gives you something that you don't have. He's such a handful all the time. There's rumors of him going to England, I think to Derby right now, and so if that were to happen, maybe he has a good year. He develops a little bit more. Like he would be a good one to watch and to kind of keep in the mix as well because he's such a different profile. So those are, I think, the guys that kind of stand out to me. But hey, like I said, I think it's good for anybody. Sebastian Berhalter for me yesterday played really well, covered
There's
a
a
lot
shame
of
on that.
ground.
There's a shame on that missed penalty. He
Oh
did.
yeah,
He
yeah,
was one of the guys that missed the penalty, and it's
yeah. We'll talk about that in a sec. But just like from his performance, like just from watching, and maybe I watched the game differently than other people do, but like just from him covering so much ground, for example, the defensive work that he did so that Malik Tillman could go and attack and be free, right? Like he would cover the kind of right side, so Tillman is freer to kind of come inside and combine and play. And Seb, I thought did a really good job in that sense. And yeah, but the penalty, obviously a tough one. So I don't know how they did it on TV, but in the stadium they showed Greg Berhalter before and they showed him after. Did they do that on TV
they
too?
did that on TV.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
they showed Greg Berhalter, and then it was the first cut after the miss, and they
Oh, we
went
should
run. I
have this
can't.
this clip right here
Oh,
if you watch
I
on
can't
YouTube.
believe they had it in the stadium. That to me is somehow even worse because
Yeah.
that means he knows that he's like on camera. Because you can tell when they cut to him, he goes like there was just a quarter second of I just watched. I can't even imagine the feeling, right? I've said a lot of things about Greg
Oh,
Berhalter, but this time you're just the dad of a player who's
Yeah.
taken like misses a penalty. There was a quarter second of anguish, and then he just popped right into. But you could see, I think it's Seb's sisters, his younger sisters.
Yeah.
One of them was just
She's
sitting there like,
yeah.
and she looks at her dad, and he was. I felt bad. I felt bad for Greg Berhalter in that moment. It was a savage camera play by them.
Yeah. Absolutely. I felt bad for Greg. I mean, I felt bad for Seb, because I know how much he wanted that, and he was fighting and scrapping all game long, trying to get into people's faces and all that type of stuff. Like, he's feisty, and then he wants this. He wants to win that game. He wants to win that Gold Cup, and he wears that badge with real honor and real fighting spirit in that way. So for him to miss the penalty, it was tough, but at
I
least it
did think
worked out, and then he went
I,
through.
I did think it was funny. I just happened to notice this. They score the winning penalty, and they're celebrating. They're jumping on Matt Freeze, and they're showing it on camera. And then Seb Berhalter comes flying into the picture, jumps on top of the pile. He was the happiest person there,
Yeah.
as you are if you're the guy that missed the penalty, because even though he missed it, they're still able to go on to the next round, and he's got that opportunity of redemption. Because that's the worst part about missing a penalty and then losing is there's
Yeah.
just nothing more that you can do. You just have to go home and sit on it. But now he gets
Yep.
to go to practice tomorrow. He was even more excited than everybody else.
That happened to me in, I think, my first professional year in 2017. We played Columbus in the playoffs. First round of the playoffs with Atlanta. I missed the penalty, and we ended up losing and going out. But, and here's something for the producer. I hope that we can play this, because this is much better, because I was also involved in a shootout with the national team in the Gold Cup when I played. We
Really?
played, yeah, but we ended up losing. But I scored, so
Oh,
it's
nice.
different. But
Were
still,
you stepping up with the national team, just trying to block out the memory of the playoffs with Atlanta, or is it?
no, it was a good shot. It was just a really good save. Zach Steffen actually saved it. It was a really good save from him. So, I watched it, I think, about 10, 15 times, and then I just notched it off as, all right, credit to him for saving that.
Right. You just try to. Is that the best? Because if I remember, this is obviously not quite at the same level. In 8th grade, this is some Zealand lore for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
I was a basketball player growing up. That was always what I did. That was what I wanted to be. It helped that I was 6'2" when I was 12. I am
Yeah.
still 6'2" now. I was just one of those kids that just right up at the beginning. And we were in the league championship in middle school. And the game was tied with 6 seconds left. And there were somebody got called for a tech. It was like a big, heavy foul, no doubt about it. Technical foul, which
Yeah.
basically means if you aren't a basketball person, for the foreign audience, you get 2 free throws, chance to take the lead. I was a knockdown free throw shooter. I had the hoop in the driveway. I'd sit out there and just shoot all day long.
Yeah.
So I walked into the huddle and I went, I got it. Yeah, I was that guy. I walked into the huddle and I was like, I got this. Give it to me.
Confident.
And he gave me, he was like, yeah, sure, go. And I was like, cool. So I stepped up for the 2 technical free throws, and I could still see it clear as
no.
day in my mind, because they were both perfect. They hit the back of the rim and came back out both
Oh
of them.
no.
And we lost in overtime. It went to overtime after that. They were both dead on line. There's too much adrenaline, and it hits the back of the iron and comes
Yeah.
out. And I went into the dressing room bawling, like just bawling,
Yeah.
apologized to the team. And then I left before the coach even gave the talk, and took 1,000 free throws before I left the gym. Did you do something like that when you
It's
miss
like
a
some
penalty?
Kobe Bryant stuff over here.
I'm like, look, if somebody dunks on me, fine. If somebody's faster than me, fine. But
Yeah.
shooting was my thing. That was what I did. If I was open, it had to go in. And I was like, I couldn't allow. I needed to erase the taste. So did you do something like that? You go back out on the field and you're like, I got to take 100 penalties or something, or you just.
Well, in that case, it was the off season, so I had to sit with it for a while, and I did not go out and just take penalties. No, like I said, I just chalked it off as, like you said, they were perfect. They're just a little bit of adrenaline, just a little bit more. But I next time there was a penalty shootout, I stepped right back up, and I was like, no problem. I don't let one miss define me in that way. I'm better than that, and I just step right up again and try and knock it in. And for the US in that moment, I was really nervous because it was also, I think it was semifinal game, and yeah, I stepped up against Panama. We were in the quarterfinal. We were against Canada, and I got subbed off in that game. We also went to penalties, but I got subbed off, so I wasn't part of the shootout. I didn't shoot, but we won, and we went through. And then Panama, same thing, tie game, penalties, and I was on the field. I got subbed in, and I stepped up and I try to just focus on the simple things, and just focus on the spot where I want to hit it and how I want to shoot it at. And I don't remember being a great penalty, but I scored it, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think you kind of black out in that exact moment.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, yeah, okay, it's in the back of the net. Perfect.
Yeah, you do.
But yeah, the two different ways to handle trauma, one from a professional athlete and one from, well,
Hey, everybody's different. You can handle it. Some people need therapy. Some people just you need the therapy through just shooting 100.
Yeah, I felt good after I took like 1,000. It just sounded like a good number. They left. It was one of those movie moments. They left the light on in the gym, and I'm just sitting in there, like wearing my mom's trying to talk to me. We need to go home. No, I'm busy. Like this is it. I'm freaking 13 years old.
Get the rebound.
Yeah, exactly. Can you
Give
just
me
feed the ball back to me? We'll leave faster. Trauma to one side. We'll catch up with everything else that happened in the Gold Cup because the USA's path, because of that Guatemala game you mentioned, got a lot easier. Canada's out, which is another thing you can point out and go, look, Canada looked like potentially the favorite in this tournament. They have now been eliminated by Guatemala. Schaffelberg, one of their key players, he got a red card in the first half. Guatemala's in the semifinal for the first time since 1996. I'm going to be honest, love the fact that they're there. I've watched 2 of their games. They're not that good. The U.S. should be able to win that game. Like, I mean, no offense to Guatemala. I feel like if you were talking to Guatemala fans, they would probably be like, yeah, we're not really that. 9 of the 11 guys that start for this team play in the Guatemalan League. Again, it is sick that they're here. But the fact that the U.S. gets to play Guatemala, I think we're feeling really close to the destiny of every Gold Cup, which is USA-Mexico in the final. We're going to return to those old glory days. Mexico's playing against an Honduras team that beat Panama in penalties. In that USA-Mexico, July 6th, just after July 4th, if it ends up happening. Obviously, there's 90 grueling minutes to get through before then, and I'm sure Guatemala and their fans will make it tough, as hard as possible. How have your U.S. expectations changed? We'll leave the U.S. on this now that the path is open and you've seen the team kind of show the heart to get through that game.
Go get it done. Go get to a final and go beat Mexico. Or, simple as that. Like, go get it done. You're 180 minutes away. You have a team that you should beat. No excuses if you don't. Absolutely no excuses if you don't. Because even the guys that didn't play should beat that team. That roster is 100 times better than the Guatemalan roster. Let's be honest. So they should beat that team, and therefore, go to a final, and let's go celebrate. Let's have a real positive thing, and then you're 90 minutes away from a trophy, and then in the last tournament before the home World Cup, you did the job. It might have not been the prettiest. There might have been some speed bumps, but you got it done, and that's all that matters. If in the World Cup next year you are getting it done to the extent of you are getting maybe to a quarterfinal or a semifinal or whatever, no matter how it happens, it's going to be great. It can be the ugliest performances, whatever. Like Guatemala is here now in the semifinal. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to next year we'll get to a World Cup semifinal. Who knows? But do it now and have that positive feeling, have that energy, create that for this federation now, and go and do it. Simple as that.
I think my expectations have gone up watching this tournament for the U.S. I think at this point, because the U.S. came into this as about as low as the U.S. has been since missing the World Cup in 2018. Right? Rewind the tape here. They got smoked by smoked like a brisket on Sunday afternoon by Switzerland. Not a full strength Switzerland team. And then they come into this tournament. They've won all 4 games. And I know that the names aren't marquee, but look, Saudi Arabia beat Argentina at the last World Cup. Costa Rica nearly took down Germany. The U.S. has managed to get through these teams, right? In Canada, just went and lost to Guatemala. Like, there are speed bumps in this tournament. And the U.S., while it looked like a prime candidate to just trip and fall over the first speed bump that it ran into, has not. And the red carpet's been thrown down. So I'm with you. Go win the thing. This is there. Go get the momentum.
It's funny how I feel like Canada has gotten much better at playing European teams, while the US has not. But Canada has also gotten much worse at playing CONCACAF teams, while the US has maintained to play CONCACAF teams pretty well. So it's like you either get better at playing European teams or world teams from around the world, and in CONCACAF you get worse or not. It's like this trade-off I feel like that you have to make. But hey, who knows? Well, you're saying, your expectations have gone up, mine have gone up too, and here we are. Hopefully they're going to beat Guatemala, right? Like if they trip over Guatemala, then we're right back down. So
right back where we started.
But you're right. Like like I said, I think go and do it. Go and no excuses if you don't get to the final. Final, anything can happen, especially if it was to be Mexico. But why not? Why not do it? Why not win the Gold Cup and have positivity and get get to the next year's summer or the next window feeling good about the national team for once.
Yeah, it'll just be something to point at. Something to be like, look, we don't suck as bad as we maybe thought we did coming into this tournament. And we know this isn't I don't want to say the best because they are winning right now, but the most talented team that the U.S. can put on the field either. Although a lot of these guys will probably play a role at the World Cup, this is not even a full strength team. And if you can go out there and get the job done against, in a tournament where almost every other team is basically full strength, that says a lot of positive things. Speaking of how much we should care about things, time to talk about the Club World Cup, because that is entered the knockout phase and people are starting to pay more and more attention. I did get the official number on this. 57% of the seats were filled for the group stage, which I imagine that was higher than FIFA wanted. I did correctly guess the least attended match with Ulsan and Mamelodi Sundowns, so I was very happy about that when they released the attendance figures. I was there. 3,400 people. There were less than that actually at the game, but who knows what happened. The others got lost in Disney World or something. But the knockouts have gone largely according to plan. Obviously, the big marquee match was PSG against Inter Miami. PSG won 4-0, which makes Inter Miami better than Inter, I guess, because PSG beat them 5-0. So, was that a surprising result? I mean, to me, I'll start on that, obviously, because that's a bit of an awkward question for you. No, this is not a surprising result. It's not. Inter Miami's not the best team in MLS right now. And just in terms of form, I mean, look, Messi's the greatest player that's ever lived, and he did his absolute darndest, as well as Inter Miami playing at a really high level to get out of the group stage. But I would have been stunned if this match went any other way than it did. And I think there's no shame in losing to the literal best team in the world right now, 4-0. I don't think there's any shame in that at all.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any shame in it either. I think it was a good showing from Inter Miami. Great for them to get out of the group, and overall, I think a positive tournament for MLS. And you can lose 4-0. I think obviously the game was played at a different level in the second half after it was kind of decided early on. So maybe PSG could have added a few more if they were to fully, keep playing in a way. But it was, again, a good showing from Inter Miami. Happy for the guys to get to experience a game like that and play like that. But ultimately, I think everybody knew that the result was going to be this way. And now we get a real marquee matchup with PSG versus Bayern Munich in the quarterfinal. I'm not gonna lie, I thought about maybe flying to Atlanta for that game, but if it wasn't July 4th weekend and the prices of flights were not through the roof, I probably would have done it, just a little day trip to go there to that game. But because when are you going to watch those two play against each other, this close again? So unfortunately, it's too expensive, and timing wise, it's not ideal, obviously, with a lot of games for us.
Yeah, they tried to squeeze that in, like, "Oh, where's Julian in the training? Ah, sick day," and
Yeah.
you're over at the Bayern game. No, I don't think FIFA could have gotten a better matchup. Bayern got by Flamenco 4-2 in what was kind of a wild, weird showdown that they had. Bayern PSG in the quarterfinal is just nuts. I mean,
Too
that's the
early.
type of match that if it's not a friendly in a college football stadium in July, you're going to get 50, 100 million people around the world that want to watch those two teams
Yeah.
play in a big tournament. We know a lot of the guys on Bayern are really excited about this tournament. PSG gets out of bed and scores 4 goals on anyone the way they've been playing recently. And that whole team is seemingly 19 to 24-year-olds that are just kind of scratching the surface of what they're going to be. I would go too if I could. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be traveling with my family on July 4th weekend. But if I wasn't, that's the game. And for Inter Miami, I would have loved to have seen them play a team like Palmeiras or Botafogo, because I feel like that would have been a
Yeah.
much more exciting, kind of intense game. I think it was a really, really unlucky draw for them. But those two teams played each other. Palmeiras won. They now play against Chelsea in the quarterfinals, so that doesn't have the same pull
Yeah.
as Bayern and PSG. Fluminense beat Inter. That happened earlier today. We're recording this podcast on Monday as Man City and Al Hilal are about to kick off. I know it's so hard to judge this Club World Cup, but the South America has done very well. They've got Palmeiras in the quarterfinal, even though they beat another South American team to get there. And they just got a win against a team that made the Champions League final. Has your perception of South American football changed at all because of this tournament?
I think it hasn't changed. I think I just got to know them better. I don't think I've really ever watched those teams or ever known much about the league or the quality of the league or the quality of the teams. It's um, not on the usual TVs when I tune in to watch soccer, which isn't a lot at the moment, to be honest with you, in general. But um, yeah, so I'm just like it has just opened my eyes a little bit to the quality they have, the quality of players they have, the teams, and all of that. And I think it's just brought out a lot about, or it's shown me a lot about the fans and kind of how much these teams mean to the people that that are supporting them and stuff. So that's just been really fun to see.
I think that the biggest win for the South American teams, like, we knew they were good.
Yeah,
I mean, we already knew that South America was the second best confederation when it came to leagues. It's not like anybody was walking around pretending that, River Plate and Boca Juniors were bad teams, or that, if you put
yeah,
the
yeah,
best Brazilian teams on the field against a lot of European teams, that they wouldn't be able to win. I think what's impressed me so much is that the European I don't want to say the European teams have been found out to be plastic, because they're not, particularly in certain areas, right? But there is just a certain rabid, frothing at the mouth religious fandom
yeah.
that these South American teams have, that I think it's really cool as being presented to the world. Right? It's this just, I mean, I feel like every single one in
Oh,
the stands has like a tattoo of the team's badge on their shoulder or
yeah,
something. I mean, it
yeah,
is. I got to go to the Palmeiras game in New York, and I mean, it was a Palmeiras home game,
yeah.
and we're an 8-hour flight away from where a lot of these people came from.
How do I describe the Europeans in that sense? Because they have that, not to the extent that South American teams have. They're like a Bayern fan is a Bayern fan, right? But they also have this like other part of their brain or other part of their fandom that like doesn't want to support the whole money grab, the whole, like just like that, the political piece, I want to say. That part is certainly playing a big factor in the support of from the European teams, I feel like. And for South American fans, maybe it's just not as prevalent, not as relevant to have that issue kind of brought up. It's, hey, my team plays, I want my team to win and I'll die for them.
Yeah, no,
You know, and
I that I plastic was the wrong word. Maybe more pensive, thoughtful.
yes.
Because the South American teams, you could tell them they were playing on the moon against Martians, and they'd be like, cool, we'll be there and we'll
Yeah.
win. Where
Yeah.
if you take these European teams, take Chelsea, for example, right? They have a huge fan base, right? A global fan base, right? There's kids I grew up with that are Chelsea fans, right? They picked it in third or fourth grade, and that's what, go Chelsea. But they don't look at the Club World Cup and go, instantly I'm in, right? They need more convincing to go there. It's like a fan cultural difference where these South American teams, they could play the friendly in July in a college football stadium, and they don't care. They're going to be there. They're going to be there 5 hours before the game. They're going to be hammered and they're going to be loud, right? That's just what they're going to do. So I guess this tournament's been fun because that's been thrown into stark relief. And I guess the end of the day, the point of a World Cup is to expose you to different parts of the world in the way that they do things. And this has accomplished that, right?
It's done that. Absolutely. It's done that.
Well, Real Madrid and Juventus play tomorrow. By the time this podcast comes out, you will already know. So if you are a time traveler, please come back and give me betting tips. Dortmund and Monterrey play tomorrow night, and that will round out the Club World Cup round of 16. Real possibility we get 6 of 8 European teams. I don't know if that's more or less than we would have expected. Never really done this before. So 2 South American teams are lining up. Obviously, a Saudi team and a Mexican team that could make it. That would be one hell of a surprise, and we would definitely talk about it on this podcast next week. But it is time. I check my watch right here for fan questions. And we've got 3 of them, which is why I'm very excited to get to them. We have a first one from @TKilla88. Question for Gressel. Got to see you play in person for the first time when Minnesota United came to visit my home team, the Seattle Sounders. Early in the first half, you picked up a yellow, which admittedly seemed very soft. Does picking up a yellow change how you play the rest of the game? And does your opinion on if the card is deserved change your, there's a bit of a typo, but your react or adjust, how you react or adjust?
Let me tell you, it was soft. Oh my gosh, it was soft. And I would tell you if I deserved a yellow. I would. But that was soft. First of all, thanks for listening. You're a Seattle Sounders fan all the way on the West Coast. We appreciate it a lot. And thanks for sending in the question. We need more of this. Please send in questions and comments. We love them so much.
Probably the best part of the show, right? You guys are carrying.
No, absolutely. And it, you actually ask great questions, like this one. And yes, it was a very soft yellow. It definitely affects the way you play the rest of the game. I think you could sense that even in that game. It was a game where I actually got subbed out because of the yellow at halftime, which sucks. Like the coach comes over to me at halftime and goes, "Hey, I feel like all they're going to do is just tell those guys to go 1v1 at you. And, you have one bad call from a referee. It's not like I'm not trusting you. You're one bad call away from the referee. You're one bad call away from him to just send you off. And then we're down to 10 men. And I don't want that to happen." So it absolutely changed the way I played the rest of the game. It was a super soft yellow where I think Nuhu tried to pass the ball by me, or he did pass the ball by me, and I actually try and get out of the way. I'm not even trying to foul him, and he just kind of dives and falls down a bit without really much contact from me at all. And so yeah, I was super frustrated with the yellow, and yeah, I don't know. You try and talk to the referee about it. I try to tell him to go look at it at halftime, to go show him that it wasn't a yellow, basically, so that if I were to have another foul, the next one, for example, that he wasn't so quick to maybe pull out a second yellow for me. So you try and do some damage control in that sense, I guess. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I feel like I answered it pretty well. I think, yeah, it definitely affects how you play moving forward because you don't want to, ultimately get a second yellow. And if you are in my position in that game, especially, I was facing a lot of 1v1s against me and stuff. And that they're sitting there at halftime saying, "Hey, this guy's on a yellow. Let's, keep going at him, keep going at him." So certainly plays a factor for me and for the other team.
I like the man management aspect of look, that was a soft yellow. So, hey, you got to give me a little more leeway if you're trying to give me another one.
It didn't work because I wasn't on the field anymore. So, but we also got some questions for you today, my friend. Finally, I pled for the fans to send in questions for you, and they finally did.
You got to be you be careful what you wish for, because they're going to ask some weird ones. I've seen this one, so I know what's coming. See if you can read this, figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I've read it a couple times already. So this is from @Cali Cigarette. I'm guessing that's how she or he wants the name. Cali Cigarette. Question for Zealand. When is Zealandism going to run again? Also, will you ever have Zealandism on as a guest of the podcast? His majestic forehead would really add an exciting visual element to the football commentary. He's definitely got more ball knowledge than Zealand and might be better alongside Julian as a host.
Yeah, I mean, will we ever have Zealandism as a guest on the podcast? That would be difficult. I know he has a very busy schedule. He releases sometimes a couple videos in a
I've
single
requested
day.
him a few times.
Yeah, and he airs DMs because he airs mine too. To be perfectly honest, he's hard to get in touch with. Will he ever run again? He ran today. Actually, I follow him on Strava, the running app, and I'm pretty sure he went on a run today. But it was quite hot, and so I'm not sure how he managed to pull that off. Maybe he was struggling a little bit and then felt terrible afterwards. As for his majestic forehead adding to the excitement, the exciting visual element, I've often thought that was an attempt at impersonation. And I feel like my forehead is able to contribute a lot to the visual element. I mean, it helps light Julian's face with the reflective force here, so that's good. But does he have more ball knowledge than me? Honestly, probably. That guy spends all of his time talking about the Mongolian Premier Division, and I don't know a lot about it. So the truth is, Zealandism, this person that kind of imitates me on the internet on YouTube, maybe they'll make an appearance in the podcast at some point. But I don't know if either of us have enough clout to get in touch with them. That's the answer.
Are we gonna give the listeners like an answer to this weird situation right now, or are we just gonna leave it?
I mean, Zealandism is a YouTube channel that copies my flow line for line, bar for bar. Looks a lot like me. Allegedly, maybe me, but I don't think it is because I'm me and I would know. And he, just talks a lot about football stuff. See, you ask for questions from the people that follow me, and you're going to get this kind of internet lore.
I think for all the people that don't know, I think the best way is to just go to Zealandism, the channel, and just go check him out for yourself.
You can try and figure out if it is me because that's a conspiracy theory. But honestly, I don't see the resemblance.
Yeah.
We have
one more comment.
Yeah.
Yes,
no, this is
the favorite one. My favorite one. It's the best.
My mom.
Is it?
Is I hope so. Okay. Or else somebody's like pretending to be my mom on the internet, and that would just be even weirder. My mom has always been, in the best way possible, involved in everything that I do. And when I started streaming on Twitch, she learned how to moderate it. And when we started this podcast, because she used to work in media, and so she knows about such things, she sent Julian and I emails about how to, if you remember this, just ideas, just tips. She's an idea factory. Just, think about this. I might try this. And whatever. Long emails, right? And that was how Julian met my mom. She left a comment. It's not quite a question, but it is included as our third fan comment today. So from @mombot, which is her nickname in my internet space, _Z. Okay, without question, you know who is your number one fan, Zealand. I have all the t-shirts, all the cups, been to the most games you have called, logged more hours on Twitch than most, and have the most comments on YouTube. It's true, she does. She comments on almost every video. The question really is, who is your second biggest fan? That is what Mombot is asking. Who is the second biggest fan that I have?
Well, we are still on this quest to find.
That's true.
This started it, right? We're on this quest to find your biggest fan. We found mine in a previous episode. Go back and check that out with all the jerseys and everything. Tobias Dressel was his name, and we were on this quest to find your biggest fan, and we found Mama Z.
No, we did. She's the winner.
She is. She's a very, very lovely lady. I obviously met her in person at that Tampa game early in the year as well.
Which is very fitting for how involved my mom is and everything. Julian met my mom before she met me. My first meet and greet at TwitchCon that I did, my mom was also up there. Like, they were meeting me and Mombot at the TwitchCon meet and greet. It was hilarious. They were more excited to see her than they were to see me, which was awesome. I mean, but the second biggest fan, I don't know, Mombot, we'll search. There is the guy on my Reddit that got a tattoo of my logo, which I was always incredibly flattered by.
Still waiting for his comment.
Yeah. I know. I should reach out to him. I don't know if he's a listener to the podcast. That's what, which would make him not the biggest fan. So
Yeah,
that would be harsh for somebody that literally has a tattoo of me.
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
I'll message him on Reddit, see if he wants to join the show.
Do it, please. See, to end this show, though, I have one more question. I have one
Okay.
more question for you. Did you wash the jersey I gave you? Please say yes.
I know I should have known you were going to ask that because the first thing, so Julian gives me the jersey, right? We met after the game. You know where this is going. We met after the game, and Julian, I'm from Florida, so I'm from the streets of like heat and humidity. I was molded by it. I am Bane when it comes to the stuff. It was a Florida spring night in that stadium. It was
Oh, it was hot.
85 and humid as hell. I mean, it
Yeah.
just was like you were in a blanket of sweat the whole time. And so he hands me the jersey. The first thing he says is he goes, "You sure you want it? It's really sweaty." It's like, yeah, that's fine. And of course I grab it. I'm like, wow. I mean, it was soaked all the way through. I think I posted some stupid thing on my Instagram story where I was like, "You are a sweat god. Like, this is unbelievable." I put it in my bag, and I actually had this kind of camera lens cleaning thing because I filmed a little short while at the game and meeting you and everything. And when I took the jersey out of the bag, the camera lens cleaning thing had absorbed like all this sweat. I know. So I had to dry that out. But I have this thing where I've been given a few jerseys and I'm always incredibly flattered. And I always make some stupid joke like, "Oh, I should have brought a keyboard or something to give to you." I think I offered you my camera in the moment.
You did.
I always forget too. I never think that I'm going to be in that situation. I really should have. Next time I meet Julian, I'm going to swap sides. Maybe when I get a new microphone or like headset or something. I don't wash them. I dried it. So what I did was I took it and like I have a fire escape, right?
Okay.
But I didn't put it on the fire escape. I don't want it to get blown off. But I like opened the window and dried it because obviously it was nasty, right?
Yeah.
It was so nasty. So I didn't want it to be inside necessarily. But I tried it out, and I hope that was okay because I'm never gonna wear it. I'm just gonna hang it up, and that's the jersey that Julian gave. I just
you can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah. It's true. I know some people are going to be like, "Yo, that's nasty," but I feel like if you wash it, you take away some of the sheen of like, this is a match-worn jersey that they get.
Yeah. No, but cool. Yeah, I just wanted to ask as one last additional question there from me at the end, but it was very nice to meet you, obviously. Finally in person, we finally did it, and yeah, man, we got to do it more. Simple as that. We got to have a live episode, hopefully at some point, and do some more stuff together in person, and more than just the 5-10 minutes we got after the game.
I know. And the whole time we were being heckled by these kids that were trying to get you to give them their jersey, and
it was like 10 kids' birthdays, and they all wanted my jersey and autographs. And I said this to you in the moment, right, where there's like the fans, even because we're standing right by the Red Bull fan section, right there. And all the like some of the fans were like breaking down some flags and stuff, and some of the fans were like, hey, jersey with like the Red Bull gear on. And I was like, no, I just like said no, like, and then I said to you, I was like, all night long they boo you, and when you go over to a corner they tell you how bad you are in not so nice terms, and then after the game they ask you for a jersey. Yeah, it sounds about right, but no, I'm not giving him a jersey like that. So
but it was great. And Julian's a very nice guy. Came out after he'd gone into the locker room to come say hi to me, kind of standing, sweating my ass off in the corner. So it was a great time. I'm sure we will be able to spend a lot more time together in the future. We'll make it happen. I need to get up to Minnesota, but that's all stuff for a future podcast. And this podcast, it's over. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, follow wherever you happen to be watching this. Send in your questions. We'll get to you next week. Love you guys. See you.
Bye.